For the longest time, Tubi has been a fantastic place to find really great independent horror movies and thrillers that you might not find anywhere else, and they're free on Tubi, but they finally have a killer sci-fi section. In this video, I'm going to talk about over 20 of the best sci-fi movies they currently have included. And don't worry if you don't like watching Tubi because you don't like the commercials. Down in the top pinned comment and at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a comprehensive list that tells you everywhere else you might be able to currently stream these titles in the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. But my bottom pick on this list is a post-apocalyptic flick with a twist. It's titled Hostel. This story centers around one woman surviving in this post-apocalyptic wasteland where her vehicle overturns and she's trapped out in the middle of this wasteland with some sort of creature. Now, this movie is more than just a post-apocalyptic story. It actually has a pretty interesting story at its core, but it's mostly told through flashbacks. And I will warn you, at first they're going to take you by surprise. You're going to be like, I want to watch a post-apocalyptic movie. I don't want to watch these flashbacks. But they ultimately come together in a really surprising way for a movie done at this budget level. I'll say this movie also has some surprising makeup effects for something done at this budget level, but ultimately just top-notch storytelling.
What happened?
Look, I know that this is gonna sound crazy, okay?
But in Extraterrestrial, you're not actually watching a detailed, nuanced story. You're just watching an alien horror flick. In fact, it takes place in a cabin out in the woods. When a bunch of friends notice something crash nearby, they go investigate. Lo and behold, it's a giant UFO, and then they become sort of trapped in this cabin with some sort of alien lurking outside. And again, for something done at a very low budget level, this isn't an effective flick. Now, it's not one that's going to blow your hair back or really surprise you. This is not what I'm recommending for everybody, but if you do like this type of horror movie and you've never seen this one, I can tell you it's one I rarely see available on streaming, so I was actually excited to see it pop up back on Tubi. Now, even though there's some funny moments in some of the movies on this list, there's only one true comedy, and we're going to get that out of the way early on this list. And not only is it a comedy, but it's a comedy that stars David Spade and Marlon Wayans in Senseless.
Oh, this is just like when you converted to Buddhism freshman year. And then you went pre-med, then Republican. And let's not forget your little bisexual state.
You try watching Brad Pitt interview with a vampire and not feel a little conflicted.
Now, while this is not a full-on Wayans brothers movie, it does kind of feel like one. Marlon Wayans is the subject of an experiment. He's given this new drug that increases all of his senses, every single one of them. So as you can imagine, the movie's full of dick jokes and potty humor with a sci-fi twist. It's actually a pretty funny movie. If you're a fan of any of the Wayans brothers movies or David Spade, this one's got enough laughs in it to warrant a spot on this list.
Listen, my man, I got $50 in my right sock. I need this suit. Okay. I will come back tomorrow and pay you. I promise.
Young blind brother, I'm gonna fix you up real good now.
My man. Excuse me? Is this the 12th floor?
But we're going to jump over to a real weird one that I only recommend for bold viewers, but it's one of the few movies based directly on H.P. Lovecraft. It's titled Dagon. Now, this is primarily based on H.P. Lovecraft's novella, The Shadow over Innsmouth, not his earlier short story titled Dagon. It's also from the director of The Reanimator. But essentially, some people get marooned on this island or this remote location out near the sea, and they begin to discover that there's these bizarre people living there that are not quite like humans. As with all H.P. Lovecraft, there's interesting occult things going on kind of underneath the surface. Monsters lurking in the shadows, and even like really horrible beasts sort of lurking underneath the surface of the earth. All sorts of wild stuff comes to life in this movie. This too, you can feel the budget on it, but if you dig that kind of movie, Dagon is a real gem that I rarely see available on streaming. Use your eyes though. If you don't typically enjoy movies done at this budget level, Dagon, I'm telling you, is a weird one, but it goes way over the top in a big, bold fashion and is kind of a wild, dark fantasy movie. And it is a solid flick. I mean, I've got it here on this list right behind 28 weeks later. It's a great time to watch it, with the third installment in that trilogy coming out later this summer. And hell, with Jeremy Renner on his book tour now, he's doing great. He's back up and kicking. It's a great time to watch this movie. Now, is it as good as the original? No, but it's a pretty solid follow-up. And I am expecting the new installment to top this one, but 28 weeks later ended up being a pretty awesome action movie compared to the original. It's almost in a completely different genre. And it was one of 2 zombie movies released in 2007 that featured a helicopter decapitating a horde of zombies. The other movie in that category is also mentioned on this list. Recently, I released a video talking about some extremely graphic movies included over on Max. That list included both Companion and Heretic, 2 great movies I highly recommend that both star Sophie Thatcher. Prior to that, she did a phenomenal sci-fi flick with Pedro Pascal titled Prospect. In this movie, her and her father are basically like old-timey prospectors, except they're out in space and they're mining for these special little gems that can be found in the roots of these plants on an alien planet. But you could easily take this exact same script and quickly adapt it to being on the American frontier. Yet in Prospect, you get this really fantastic science fiction setting. I mean, hell, even the gun that she uses in this movie is very reminiscent of a muzzle-loaded musket. So it's not this big, sweeping, epic sci-fi story. In fact, it's fairly small, but everything looks fantastic. It's all convincing, and it ends up being a really unique setting for a story like this. Next up, I've got a Keanu Reeves classic that just barely squeaks in as a sci-fi flick. It's titled Chain Reaction. Now, the genre you're watching here is actually a man-on-the-run movie or a fugitive-type movie. But it revolves around a research project that's trying to harness hydrogen out of water. And when something goes horribly wrong, Keanu Reeves is on the run for most of the movie. Now, it does not feel like a sci-fi movie for the bulk of it, but with that science fiction setup, it earned a spot on this list, and this is one of those movies that, yes, it's a bit mediocre and a bit old-fashioned, but I gotta say, I do enjoy this flick, and it's one that I've never talked about here on the channel. At least I don't think so. I've never seen it available on streaming. It's included on Tubi. I'm telling you guys, someone over at Tubi knows how to pick out movies, which is why you get stuff like this there and not over on Netflix. And my next pick is the only one on this list that I don't even think, is a science fiction movie, but it feels enough like one that I wanted to include it because it's so awesome. It's titled Exam. This revolves around a high-level corporate exam. You've got a room full of people vying for the same job. Whoever passes this exam is essentially going to get a Willy Wonka-style golden ticket. They're essentially going to rise to the top of this massive company. And from the sounds of it, it's a company that's, bigger than Walmart or Apple or any of those big companies. It's kind of fanciful in that way, and in the way that they completely torture all of the subjects in this movie through the duration. So they're sitting down to take a written exam, and they quickly learn that they're essentially in an escape room. It's about as exciting and twist-filled as a movie filmed in one room could possibly be. I highly recommend this to anyone looking for a hidden gem thriller that is just exciting as all get out. But speaking of things that are exciting, if you didn't notice, I've got some new shirts available. Cage Against the Machine, I'm predicting is going to be a top seller. It's my personal favorite. We've also got a design based on Old Boy I'm particularly excited about. And finally, a Killer Die Hard shirt I can't wait to wear. In fact, I might wear it on the next video. There's all the old designs over there as well. The shirts are just ridiculously soft. I wear mine all the time. They are a fitted design, so if you like your shirts to be a bit loose, go a size up from what you normally do. It's a great way to support the show while also, sporting a great shirt. But my next pick on this list is one of the most classic movies on this list. In fact, I'm amazed they haven't remade this movie. Logan's Run. Now, to be fair, the Michael Bay movie The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson is essentially a remake of Logan's Run, without saying so. One might even call it a ripoff. But the original stars Michael York and is from 1976. This takes place far, far in the future in a society where no one lives past the age of 30. But Michael York plays a police officer who essentially begins to uncover a massive conspiracy that completely turns everything upside down. He ends up escaping from the city and seeing what the world is actually like outside the walls of their utopia that they've built. And he learns what the consequences are for having a utopia set up like this. It's got vintage vibes for days. If you love classic movies like this, Logan's Run is an absolute gem. In fact, if you're a fan of the original Planet of the Apes, this is a must watch if you've never seen it.
I've never seen a face like that before. That must be the look of being old.
Next up, I've got another post-apocalyptic movie with a twist, but this one stars Pierce Brosnan in a Australian wasteland. It's titled The Rover. Now this one, it's not clear what happened. It seems like some sort of societal or government collapse. There are militias still at work, but everyone else is kind of living in squalor. It definitely seems like society has fallen in this movie. And they don't bother to explain much to you, but you are in a rough landscape in this one, dealing with kind of the last few people alive. And when someone steals Pierce Brosnan's car very early on in the movie, he spends the rest of the story not just trying to get it back, but really taking revenge out on people who just stole his car. So on that note, it's got a little bit of a John Wick twinge to it, but again, this is sort of just like a brutal drama movie. Meaning, don't expect a lot of action, but you get a lot of story with this one, and it's one of those movies where some people are just completely blown away by the end. Others are disappointed. I will say you also get a stellar performance from Robert Pattinson in this movie. This was before he was really getting into drama movies. In fact, this is one of the first ones he did after Twilight, and he showed a lot of promise early in this flick. Now I've got another real weird one from the director of the Nicolas Cage flick Mandy. It's titled Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Hello. My name is Dr. Mercurio Arborea, and I am the founder of the Arborea Institute.
Now this is the flick Panos Cosmatos directed before Mandy, and it is similar in a lot of ways, but also very reminiscent of Stanley Kubrick. I mean, this is like Stanley Kubrick on steroids and LSD at the same time. It's that wild of a movie, meaning it is not a crowd pleaser, but anyone that's searching out really bizarre, interesting, very thinky stuff. Beyond the Black Rainbow is that, but it's done in a very bizarre structure. There's not much structure to the story, yet it's got this incredible synthwave soundtrack, kind of just breathtaking cinematography, little to no dialogue, and a villain that is just creepy as all get out. So this is a cool flick that isn't nearly as fulfilling as I would like for it to be. The story just doesn't really go there with this one the way that I feel like it could have. That said though, if you like the vibe of it at all, it's well worth watching. Yet next up, I do have a crowd pleaser. I've got a crowd pleaser that stars Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley and Viola Davis with Ender's Game.
The aliens first invaded. They nearly destroyed us. They will be back.
Now this is based on a best-selling book. It takes place way in the future. Humanity is struggling to fight off these hordes of alien invaders. And one of their last-ditch efforts is to train child soldiers in game strategy in an effort to crack how to defeat these really strategic aliens. So the setup is interesting enough, but the delivery is kind of a training academy for these kids. So it's got some elements of the Hunger Games, also some elements of the Maze Runner. The bulk of the movie is them going through all these training exercises and games, but that's enough to carry this movie. It's all interesting enough, and ultimately, the story here does go somewhere. We're on to my top 5 now, which just features some amazing sci-fi movies, like some of the best ever made. Before that, though, I'll say the Tubi sci-fi section is so killer right now. There's a handful that are going to be leaving soon. I didn't want to include in the official list, but you may want to check them out. They currently have movies like The Fifth Element, which is always worth multiple watches. The Edge of Tomorrow, I can say the same thing about that movie. It's highly, highly rewatchable. The City of Lost Children is one I wanted to include here. It's got just amazing, amazing cinematography. They've even got Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror, the other flick from 2007 with a helicopter decapitating zombies. It's really gory and incredibly nonsensical, but loads of fun. I mean, Metropolis is one of the most classic sci-fi movies of all time. You've got Predestination with Ethan Hawke, a movie I always recommend here on the channel, but I have recommended it recently. And then the original Highlander. This is another one. I don't see it available on streaming very often. They have it on Tubi right now. It will be leaving soon, but my next official pick on this list will not be leaving Tubi soon, and it is the original Planet of the Apes. A movie so good, even when you know all of the twists, and it's one of those movies where people that have never even seen it already know the twists. Like, it's that classic of a movie, yet it still holds up. The message comes through really strongly still to this day. Like, it's a message that transcends its time period. But aside from that, it still is an excellent sci-fi film with some incredible cinematography, some great makeup effects, some that are not so great, but there are a lot of great effects in Planet of the Apes that still hold up really well today, meaning they were beyond cutting edge when this movie came out. And it is just thoroughly entertaining. Like, this movie actually has some legs still. It doesn't really drag for long portions. It just keeps moving, and it's thoroughly entertaining. I've watched it with my kids, and they were entertained by it, and they don't watch a whole lot of old movies like this. But for something just on the complete opposite end of the spectrum that's just gonna, like, have sensory overload, we've got another movie I love recommending here on Flick Connection, Paprika.
In the very near future, a group of brilliant scientists have created a machine that can control our dreams.
Now, this is a Japanese anime, but if you never watch Japanese anime movies, this is one I recommend for almost everybody. It is absolutely breathtaking, stunning visuals in this movie, but also absolutely mind-bending science fiction elements. In fact, Christopher Nolan basically took the concept for Inception from this movie. He definitely tweaked it a lot, but he also lifted specific scenes from Paprika for Inception. So, fans of Inception need to see this movie. Like, it'll blow your mind how much they have in common. But really, anybody that's looking for, like, a visually stunning science fiction movie that they've never seen before, Paprika is one of the best ones you could possibly hunt down, whether you've ever watched anime or not. Now we're up to my number 3 pick, where we've got one of the better sci-fi movies released in the 21st century so far, Ex Machina.
I want to be with you. You have to help me.
Go back to your room.
Do you want to be with me?
I mean, hell, even the title of the movie gives away one of the major twists, and it still takes you by surprise, and that's kind of the point of the movie, right? I mean, you're following a guy who's talking to this AI robot who he knows she's an android, yet she somehow is still able to manipulate him. The movie, it uses the word ex machina, and it's still able to trick you into not expecting to see what's coming. It's really a brilliant flick. On top of it just being kind of a visual stunner with some great performances, like, I'm not really sure what else this movie was supposed to accomplish. It nails it. Then my number 2 pick on this list is actually 3 movies. We've got The Thing, and The Thing from Another World. Now, John Carpenter's The Thing is the movie to watch. I mean, it is the greatest movie in its genre. It has some of the most amazing practical effects you're going to see in a movie like that. And it's exciting as all get out. Just really well directed, incredibly well paced, keeps moving, has some just classic scenes that are highly rewatchable. Just forget about it. Like, as far as horror sci-fi movies go, The Thing is one of the all-time greats, but it is a remake of The Thing from Another World. A classic drive-in style movie from 1951, same concept, Not all the practical effects that you would see in the later version, of course, like they basically pioneered those with the John Carpenter version. But still, a great movie to watch, especially if you're a fan of the John Carpenter movie. And then they have The Thing from 2011, a very misunderstood movie, but I'm here to tell you, if you're a fan of the John Carpenter movie, you need to see this 2011 version. Now, I'll say, the title is all wrong. They should have named it something somewhat different. And they really did go for practical effects with this movie, but they enhanced them with CGI in a way that I think kind of robbed you from the experience. Like, yes, you're seeing practical effects, but they're masked with CGI so much that it's actually kind of hard to tell. Yes, they look very convincing, but it just kind of comes across as like CGI sludge instead of real true practical effects, which is what the original movie was, so famous for. That said, they really did make an effort with this 2011 version, and it is a good movie for fans of the John Carpenter movie to pursue, even though it doesn't look like it is. That's all I'm going to say. I'm at risk of spoiling stuff here, so definitely check that version out if you've never seen it, and, if you're a fan of the original. But my number one movie on this list is gonna surprise some of you. It's Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Now, as far as sci-fi movies go, my goodness, man, it's really hard for me to top this one. There are better ones out there, but you even think about movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's hailed as like one of the greats, but Interstellar is much more watchable, and it plays with very similar concepts. The Hans Zimmer score is just relentless in this movie. The tense moments are also wound up with a whole bunch of emotion from the story. And my goodness, it's just a wild, exhausting ride. I'm telling you, if it's been a while since you've seen this movie, put it on when you have the time. It's nearly 3 hours, but it is just visually breathtaking. The storytelling is just unparalleled in terms of a movie like this. And even on a list full of fantastic sci-fi movies, again, some of the best ever made, Interstellar is far and away the most epic, exciting, and visually stunning movie on this entire list. But here's a quick recap, including the movies that are going to be leaving soon. I also will put this list in the top pinned comment for people who prefer to get it that way. If your subscribe button is red, that means you have not subscribed to the channel, and there's a good chance you may never see my content again. If you like getting these movie recommendations, you want to click that button, maybe even the like, leave a comment. If YouTube knows you interacted with this video, it's much more likely to recommend stuff from me to you again in the future. But I'm going to keep making these videos as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for watching this sci-fi list, and you will see me on the next one.